back with another video, and for this video here, we're going to sort of recap on what I've seen so far. Like I said, the Blu-ray box set is divided up into these eras, and this one is from Dr. No to The Spy Who Loved Me. So you got the first, 5 Sean Connery Bond movies, and then he would come back for Diamonds Are Forever, and then you start getting into the Roger Moore era. And a lot of these have been fun so far, especially, getting into the Roger Moore stuff. I mean, there's some that I like more than others, but it's definitely going to be hard to, when I get to like my top 10, 15, what have you, and I'm trying to think of what kind of placement should I put these Bond movies. Okay, because if I start, from the beginning, okay, Dr. No. I thought it was a solid debut for Sean Connery. It's a solid Bond movie, and I like Dr. No. I mean, again, it kind of, if you want to say it laid the groundwork for the character, it laid the groundwork for the franchise, and Sean Connery, again, he played Bond with suave, and he brought that cool factor to the character. It's you would have our first Bond girl in the film, Honey Ryder, and fun villain in Dr. No. Interesting locations as well. And that's a lot of these Bond movies. A lot of them have very exotic locations. So again, Dr. No was a fun start for the series. Would it be in the top 5 or 10? I don't know. But again, it was a fun start. From Russia with Love, again, for me, it's decent, but I give credit more to the second half of the film, because for me, that's where the film picks up. Like, the first half is not the most interesting, where, Bond is in Istanbul, and he's with this other contact, and they're sort of going through, trying to figure out more about the villains and what have you. Now, Robert Shaw is great as the character Grant, as this deadly assassin. And then when it gets to the second half of the film, where they're on the Orient Express and Robert Shaw is on this train, to me, that's where the film picks up. I don't know if I was too blown away by the Bond girl in that film. I forgot the character's name, and I should know it. But I get it's more realistic. From Russia with Love is considered one of the best because it's a pure spy movie. That it's more about the realism. It's more deep, or again, it's more of a pure spy movie. It's not, and it's a long movie. I mean, it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. So again, I understand, and that's fine. Like, if you love the film way more than I do, that's fine. I give credit to Robert Shaw. I give credit to the second half of the film. But like I said, for me, that first half, it's a little tough for me to sit through. It just felt like at points, I'm like, can we get to it? Can we get to it? Can we get to it? But overall, I still say it's decent because, again, I give credit to Robert Shaw. I give credit to the second half. You have some fun stuff in the third act, with the helicopter and some boat action. So, while I appreciate it, and it cemented Sean Connery, so for that I can appreciate that, and I can appreciate the movie, and for cementing Sean Connery's career. But it's not my favorite Bond movie, if I could be perfectly honest. Goldfinger is definitely my favorite Sean Connery movie, and I know a lot of people say that, so it's not, it's a typical thing to say, but there's a reason to that, because Goldfinger, who directed that? Guy Hamilton, yeah. I had to think about it for a second, but Guy Hamilton definitely brought great direction to the film. Memorable Bond girl and Pussy Galore, great villain in Goldfinger. I always remember the moment where Sean Connery is tied to the table, And he's like, "You expect me to talk?" "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." And everyone remembers that moment. But a lot of memorable aspects to the film. I mean, you got the girl in the beginning that is painted in gold and, dies via skin suffocation. You also have the side villain, Oddjob. Very cool villain with the lethal hat, in which, Bond and that character would get into a fight in the third act. And like I said, you have, Pussy Galore in the film, played by Honor Blackman. I thought she did a great job. And, a lot of good, it's a good balance of action and as well as having fun. And it's a great Bond movie. It's entertaining and a lot of fun stuff in the third act, where, Goldfinger's trying to raid Fort Knox. And there's a lot of great gunplay in there as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed Goldfinger. It's a great, like I said, it's my favorite Sean Connery Bond movie. Next up, we have Thunderball. There you go. Sorry about that. But yeah, Thunderball, again, I could say I like the movie, but okay, a lot of the underwater shots are well shot. But for me, it's, I'm trying to sum up Thunderball. I will say I can watch it a little bit more for Rush with Love. It's a longer movie, but I like, some of the underwater shots. The villain, I don't think the villain was that strong, looking back on the film. For me, Robert Shaw, played a better villain, and from Rush with Love. But when you talk about Thunderball, I'm trying to remember, and that's why it's taken me a second to sort of recall back on that, because, while there's a lot of, great underwater shots, there's a lot of in between, like, exposition and, some parts in the film where it takes place, I think, in the Bahamas. And so you got some good, exotic locations. But if I try to remember a lot about Thunderball, that's kind of where it gets a little fuzzy for me, because, again, I give credit to the underwater shots. Connery's not bad. He does a good job. But for me, it's just not like a favorite. I mean, what I do remember is the fun underwater battle between the villains, I forgot the villain's name, but some of the villains here, the bad guys, you would have this underwater battle, I think between the U.S. Navy and some of the bad guys, and they're fighting underwater. There's a lot of harpoons going off, and again, that's fun stuff. So there's some fun stuff there in the finale of Thunderball, and I'm trying to remember, I mean, Thunderball, I say it's a decent one, but again, it's not a favorite of mine because, at times you felt the pacing, you felt the runtime, and I think it's the longest Bond movie so far out of these. I think it was about 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know if it needed to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. It definitely could have been cut back on. Maybe you could have cut back 30 minutes. I think it would have been fine. Fun opening. I mean, I remember the way the film opens where, Bond is after this person, or he gets into a fight with this guy, and then it leads to a scene where he puts on a jetpack. So, I mean, it does have its moments, but I think for me with Thunderball, it's just not a lot of memorable moments. Again, there's some fun action, some fun underwater stuff. I like the battle underwater towards the end, but I don't know, it's just not a favorite for me. But I still say it's decent. I mean, I'm not going to crap on it, totally crap on it, but Again, I didn't mind it. You Only Live Twice. This one to me is a lot of fun, and I would say this one's underrated because, I like seeing Bond in Japan. It was a very cool location. A lot of exotic shots and locations in that movie. And this is where they would unveil the Blofeld character played by Donald Pleasance. And to me, he's the best Blofeld. And I liked how his facility is in this inactive volcano. And that's where also in the film you would have the helicopter, the little Nellie. And there's some fun helicopter action. And I like the way how they build the helicopter, some fun stuff there. And, even early on before that, the way the film opens where they kill Bond, but he fakes his death. And there's a funeral for Bond. And then they dump his body in the ocean, and his body gets picked up by a submarine, and Bond is alive and breathing. And again, that's a fun way to kick off your movie. I think he would agree. Or maybe go away. Go away. He does it every day. But yeah, You Only Live Twice, again, I thought it was a very fun Bond movie, and it's underrated to me because, again, I like, Bond being in Japan, and, I just really thought it was interesting to see him in that type of environment, and, some fun action, especially in the third act, where you had like these ninjas drop in, and then you get to some fight scenes. And I remember there's this one scene where Bond kills this character Hans, by throwing him in the piranha tank. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, the little Nelly helicopter that he builds in the film. So, yeah, You Only Live Twice, definitely an underrated Bond movie, directed by Louis Gilbert. And next up, you would have On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And this one, to me, is a really good Bond movie. It's definitely different in terms of, you have George Lazenby here. Because during the filming of You Only Live Twice, Sean Connery would retire from the role. But he would come back for Diamonds Are Forever. But George Lazenby, he brought his own personality to the role of Bond. Yeah, this is kind of getting back to more serious affairs with the character. This is where they add some depth to the character by having him marry this girl, Teresa, played by Diana Rigg. And I thought she was great in the film. And she held her own. And I really liked in the film the locations of the Swiss Alps and the Piz Gloria facility on top of the revolving restaurant. I thought it was really cool. Where Bond is undercover and he's trying to stop Blofeld's plan. Blofeld here, played by Telly Savalas. And like I said, they figure out Bond is onto him. So, that's where there's this one scene where these people raid the Piz Gloria, and they have a lot of great gunfire and gunplay. And you got some scenes where the Teresa character's kicking ass. And like I said, with George Lazenby, again, he brought his own personality to the role of Bond. I mean, if you compare to Sean Connery, Roger Moore, he's definitely the less of Bonds because he only did one. I mean, I wish there's a part of me that I would like to have seen George Lazenby get more of a shot. Like if he did one or two more. And I'm not saying, well, he actually signed on, I think, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think he signed on for 7, but he only did 1. And it would have been interesting to see him do 1 more or 2 more because, again, I liked Lazenby in the film. Even the way the film opens up with this line, this never happened to the other fella. So you kind of get a little bit of a reference there that this is a different actor. And for an unknown at the time, because the Lazenby didn't have any prior acting experience. You know, again, when I reviewed the film, I talked about how before the movie, he was like a auto mechanic. He was a martial arts instructor, or like a military martial arts instructor. I could be wrong about that. Please correct me, but he's still alive today, and you know, that's cool. So he's one of the last Bonds. But like I said, you know, Lazenby brought his own to the role of Bond, and then the ending is very impactful because, you know, Bond loses his wife. You know, his wife gets killed, and you really feel for Bond in the film. In the end, you know, you really feel for the character that he loses his love, and yeah, while it's sad, it definitely, you know, like I said, it's impactful, and it hits you right here. And again, just great locations. You know, with the Piz Gloria, you know, some great cable car action that you would see. So yeah, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, I liked a lot. Get into the next one, Diamonds Are Forever. This to me is a fun Bond movie. It was cool to see, almost said Roger Moore, but Sean Connery came back here. I wish they paid him a lot of money to come back, and he would turn around and gave them money. He would give the money to this to the Scottish International Education Trust. There you go. I think I got that right, but you know, Sean Connery here looks like he's having fun. Yeah, you could say that Sean Connery, he's aged a little bit here because at this time he was probably 40, 41. But this is still fun because you have Bond in Las Vegas, where you know, he's trying to find out more about this diamond smuggler. So he's undercover, and yeah, the Bond girl in that film, Jill St. John, I believe. You know, I believe that was her. You know, she's okay. I prefer prior Bond girls, but she wasn't bad. It was cool to see Bond in Vegas. So he has some fun stuff in Vegas, and he has some fun stuff where he breaks out of this facility in a moon buggy, and you see that character going through the desert in a moon buggy. And yeah, I mean, the finale probably could have been beefed up a little bit, you know, where they're on this oil rig. But I don't know, I just felt that the action that occurs early on in the film was a little bit better than the actual finale. I don't know if you needed the two kind of offbeat assassin type of, you know, characters in the film, but they're in the film. It's just the assassins, I don't know if you really needed those two characters. The Blofeld, the actor that played both Blofeld in the film, you know, he was okay. It was cool to see him duplicate himself. But at the end of the day, it's still a fun movie. It's a fun, decent Bond movie. And then again, Sean Connery would come back down the road for Never Say Never Again. Now we get into the Roger Moore stuff, Live and Let Die. Again, great debut for Roger Moore. Very good debut. And like I said, Roger Moore brings his own charm and personality to the role of Bond. And I liked how it kind of has sort of a supernatural, tone to it. Because you throw in the voodoo aspects. The villains here are fun. Yaphet Kotto as Kanaga. You have the character of Baron Samedi, who is played by Jeffrey Holder, which I wish that character would have had, like, he would have been second to the main villain. I mean, and that's the thing, like, there's some good villains in the film because you have this one villain that has like a hook for a hand, a pincer. I forgot the character's name, but there's a fun scene where Bond fights him on the train towards the end. But you know, the Baron Samedi character had such a unique look that I wish maybe there was a one-on-one, or maybe there was and I can't recall, but I wish there was a one-on-one between him and Bond, you know, maybe on the train. You know, instead of having him show up at the end where he's perched on the train, you know, have Baron Samedi get into a fight with Bond. But I say all that to say that Live and Let Die is a enjoyable Bond flick, and like I said, it was a very good debut for Roger Moore. And again, he brings his own charm and quips and fun one-liners to the role. The Man with the Golden Gun, the next one, again, it's a decent, fairly solid Bond movie. While I wish it would have focused more on the assassin angle, because it's definitely the best part of the film. Christopher Lee's character as, Scaramanga, the Man with the Golden Gun, and his accomplice Nick Nack. They were fun villains. Definitely one of the better villains. And that's one thing I could say about Roger Moore, is that it seemed like with each movie so far, there's been some great villains. Some real memorable villains here. But yeah, and then fun stuff in the third act. So the Man with the Golden Gun, while I don't know if you really needed the MacGuffin of the story. It deals with the energy crisis. Where Bond is trying to, find this Solix device. It's like, okay, I understand it's part of the movie, but is it ultimately needed when you have the assassin angle? Just focus more on that. Focus more on, the Man with the Golden Gun, targeting Bond, and then, you can kind of have it culminate into, the third act. And I like some of the standoff scenes between those two characters. But, some fun bits of action. And even Live and Let Die, I'd even talk about, some of the action. There's a lot of great boat chase sequences in that. And I didn't even, like, in that film, Live and Let Die, I didn't mind the sheriff character. But they brought him back here. And I don't know if he really, it's like, what's this character doing in Thailand? Like, for me, that character didn't really fit in the Man with the Golden Gun. I could deal with him, like, he's fine in Live and Let Die, but he didn't really fit in the next one. But, I say all that to say, the Man with the Golden Gun, again, it's a decent, fairly solid Bond movie, although I would put Live and Let Die above that. And then The Spy Who Loved Me, again, it's a great Bond movie, definitely, I would say, my favorite Roger Moore Bond movie. Great villain with Jaws. A lot of great, locations, with Egypt. A lot of memorable moments, where the car, turns into a, submarine. And, yeah, a lot of nice action, in the third act, where, they've captured this crew and the crew fights back. And the main villain gets a fun comeuppance. So, yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me is great. And that's kind of it for this era here. And like I said before, each has its own disc. So, it's all in there. But, yeah, that's sort of a recap on the 1962 through 1977. And then next, we're gonna talk about Moonraker, and then we're gonna kick off that era. And again, that's from Moonraker to Die Another Day. So that's it for now. Hope you liked this video, but thank you for watching, and have a good day.